Yes, please. Then, secondly, I ask you mute your microphones, please, if you are not speaking. And if you have any questions while the presentation is still going on, please put your remarks, your questions in the chat. We will discuss it after the presentation, and there should be definitely enough time for it, because we will latest close at 15 minutes past 4 German time, Central European time. So I think there should be enough time for discussion afterwards. All right, and for the French translation, you find all the remarks in the chat. So people who are listening and who do not speak fluently English, they can easily listen to it in French, and we have an excellent French translation. And my last remark is, we will send you the PowerPoint presentation and also the link to the full video later on, maybe in a couple of days, so that all of you can forward it to any colleagues or can still go through the presentation. All right, those are my first remarks, and I now would like to hand over to our head of program, Mr. Magnus Schmidt. Please, Magnus.
Thank you, Stefan. A very warm welcome to everybody, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. On behalf of the Business Support Facility for Resilient Agriculture Value Chains, financed by the German Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation, BMZ, and the Directorate General for International Partnerships of the European Commission, I would like to welcome you to this expert talk. The GIZ project's market-oriented value chains for jobs growth in the ECOWAS region MOVE and Agri-Business Facility ABF implement together the Business Support Facility and organize together this monthly expert talks. According to the World Health Organization, approximately 600 million people on the world fall ill each year due to contaminated food. Therefore, we observe a growing interest of consumers in product safety. In addition, interest in environmental impact and the well-being of workers is increasing. Food safety begins on the farm. Consequently, the creation of mainstream solutions for the holistic certification of food production worldwide are very, very important. The implementation of procedures that minimize food safety risks at farm level and allow producers to demonstrate their responsible production processes through a certification is crucial. This is one of the core activities of Global G.A.P. I'm now very much looking forward to the expert talk and to this exciting topic. I would like to thank the speakers for their time, and Stefan, the floor is yours. Thank you very much and have a nice and good expert talk with nice discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Magnus, for your opening remarks. Thanks a lot. And actually, I will not lose much time, so I will directly hand over to you, Britta, our speaker today. And Britta, please, the floor is yours. And yeah, let's go.
Thank you very much, Stefan, and also thank you very much, Markus, for the welcome words. Thank you very much for inviting me to this session. I'm very pleased to give you an overview about the significance of certification in agriculture. And let me first make sure that I share my presentation with you. Give me a second. So, and give me another second. So, Can you now see the presentation slides properly without any preview or something? Stefan, does everything work?
Please. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Works perfectly. Thanks.
Wonderful. Britta. Because I can only see now my screen. Wonderful. Okay, cool. Before I start introducing the company, I would spend a few words on myself. Why do I work for GlobalG.A.P? So I'm not an agricultural expert, actually. So I did a vocational training long time ago, and I worked as a purchasing agent for a textile company. But it ended up that I decided to study China studies and business studies. And I spent quite a while in China, and I also spent a semester abroad to write my thesis there. And that was quite an interesting period of my life because I did that being an intern for a German retailer that was located in China, having shops there, selling produce there. And they had a consulting company, and I was actually working for that consulting company. And they were the ones going to the producers, supporting them in the implementation of the Global G.A.P standard, because that was actually the purpose of that German retailer located in China. And there, as you can see in the picture, I was looking for another one, but frank and honest, I couldn't find it because when I first stepped onto that farm that you can see here, the first thing that happened, I slipped into the mud. So that was a very deep getting in touch with Chinese farms, but also my first touching point with the Global G.A.P standard. And I had visited several farms, but this specific one I visited continuously on frequent basis. And for me, it was amazing to see the development of that farm. How it started and what happened throughout the months. They had no proper pesticide storage, for example, and that was built up fairly quickly. And you could also see that there were many things that they had to implement, which they did like this with very simple means, but still fulfilling the standard requirements. And that was so amazing for me to see how they developed. And by that, basically qualified also to continue delivering to that German retailer in China, in the local market, that I thought, okay, this standard really has an impact on farmers and on their business, and also for the retailers and the consumers that finally receive the goods. And that was so impressive to me that I decided to apply for a job at Global G.A.P. And as you can see, I was lucky. It's now already 11 years ago. And I'm still working for that company. Why am I telling you this whole story is just to give you an idea why I also share that vision of our company. We envision a world in which farms are recognized for their efforts to continuously produce enough safe food while safeguarding our environment and the welfare of farming communities. And also, you can see that from that, I saw that also the stakeholders of the supply chain, that they are also committed to our mission, which is we collaborate with supply chain stakeholders to foster the global adoption of safe, socially and environmentally responsible farming practices by providing industry-leading, cost-effective and value-adding assurance and benchmarking solutions. And Global G.A.P started in the European market in the 1990s. That was in the context of the BSE crisis, where the supply chain said, hey, we have to do something about food safety and we need to standardize production to ensure that these food safety issues don't happen again. And what started as a European initiative then rapidly grew into a global initiative. And therefore, now Global G.A.P is represented in 137 countries where producers in these countries follow the Global G.A.P standard. And they are all committed to the purpose from Global G.A.P. So every generation has a right to safe food, to protect this right now and for future generations. the world's farms must produce safe food in ways that are socially and environmentally responsible and resilient. And as we are already existing for quite a while, we also have long-term business partners, like, for example, Manal Saleh, and she summarized pretty well how Global G.A.P works. So working with Global G.A.P standards since 1997, I have seen the change they've brought, not only from the food safety perspective that is so important to consumers, but also as a practical tool that helps improve social and environmental sustainability in the lives of smallholders and over the world. And this is also what I could basically see on site in China. So we are all aware of the global challenges. We have a growing world population. We have agricultural land scarcity challenges. There's water scarcity. There's water pollution. People that fall ill due to contaminated food. We are facing the topic of food waste and food losses. And of course, also the greenhouse gas emission is a big topic for the agricultural sector. So the answer from Global G.A.P to that is safe, socially and environmentally responsible farming practices worldwide. Our strategic pillars are partnership, participation, innovation, integrity, and benchmarking. By that, we mean that we are not an isolated organization, but that we are partnering up with experts along the supply chain to shape our work, and that we also try to collaborate with other standards and try to ease the processes also for the farmers. We have a unique integrity program, which means that we have colleagues at Global G.A.P that also check the work of certification bodies. These certification bodies are the ones that actually go to the farms, check the compliance with the standard, do the farmers comply with the standard, yes or no, and issue the certificates. And we also have a benchmarking approach, which is basically a comparison with other standards to avoid duplication of audits. So just to give you a very broad overview about the Global G.A.P system. So as mentioned earlier, we have more than 25 years of industry expertise. We have more than 200 producers under certification in more than 100 countries, 130 countries all over the world. There are more than 700 plants and aquatic species eligible for registration. And we are working with more than 180 certification bodies globally. And we are stakeholder driven, and therefore we also have more than 450 community members. Our company is governed by an advisory board, and this consists 50% of producers and suppliers and another 50% of retailers and food services, to ensure that the interest of all the players along the supply chain are heard and are reflected in our standard. What is very important for me to say is that we do not sit there with a few experts in the office and write a standard. Absolutely not. So what happens is that we consult with more than 1,000 international experts and have different cycles when we write a new standard or update a standard. So to make sure that all the challenges from the globally, because there might also be regional differences and so on, so that this is considered and this is valuable input we use and we review to finally create a standard that firsthand, of course, addresses consumer needs and also the needs of the supply chain stakeholders, but also that is feasible to apply. And of course, considering if you have a standard that has to be applied globally, that's quite an exercise. When it comes to the implementation of the standard, we have more than 250 Global G.A.P approved registered trainers across the world. These registered trainers are consultants that are placed locally or in a specific region, country, and support producers in the implementation of the Global G.A.P standard and help them to prepare for an audit by a certification body. I will give you some more details about that later. We also have the integrity program, I already mentioned that, as well as the harmonization program to benchmark schemes and set checklists to avoid duplication and to give a better opportunity to compare standards with each other. But apart from providing standards, we also offer capacity building services, and I will let you know more about it later. This slide might look a bit overwhelming, but no, you don't need to look at it in detail. What I just want to highlight through this slide is that we are a stakeholder-driven organization. And as you can see here, we have different committees and focus groups that constantly contribute to our work. And this is very important to us as an organization to continuously improve and adapt, and also to develop new standards that might be required. So this is really a stakeholder-driven exercise. This is what I would like you to see from here. So the core standard of our organization is the Integrated Farm Assurance Standard. So this is a standard that was developed over 20 years in consultation with global stakeholders. We have two scopes and product with multiple product categories. One is plants and one is aquaculture. We previously had livestock, but we don't have that anymore. We are following a holistic approach to cover the major industry and consumer concerns. And we do not only certify individual producers, but also producer groups. And what is also very important, especially for the retailers that request Global G.A.P certification, is that we have a verifiable in real-time IT system where you can check if the produce that you have received, for example, the pineapples from Kenya, that you have there on your shelf, if they are really Global G.A.P certified, yes or no. So our IFA fruit and vegetable standard is not only about food safety. That is, of course, a very critical component of the standard, but it also covers other points like the environmental sustainability, legal management and traceability, production processes, as well as workers' well-being. And this standard is also contributing to the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. What was quite an exercise for our organization was that we updated our standard from version 5 to version 6. That sounds very simple. Actually, it was a very tremendous effort of our organization with all the public consultation cycles that we had, reviewing all the comments and putting that into the new version. Also, we are now following a more risk-based approach. And what I would like to highlight here is that we also have a major focus on environmental sustainability in our new version 6. So there are new sustainability topics such as greenhouse gas emission and climate change, food waste management, deforestation prevention, and other topics. But also there are existing topics about sustainability that we have updated. For example, biodiversity, soil management and conservation, waste management, plant protection products, and such. What is, of course, also of everyone's concern is the European Green Deal. So this is also something that we as an organization pay attention to. And we also focus on the sustainability topic, which is reflected in version 6 of our standard. And besides, we are also working on an environmental sustainability solution, which is also focusing more on sustainability. And we are also considering the social reforms and transitions through our Global G.A.P GRASP add-on. That is something you have to imagine. We have the Global G.A.P IFA standard, which is basically the core of everything and the basis for everything. And for those producers that would like to do or perform something on top, there are different add-ons that we provide. And one of them is GRASP, which is for social responsibility. And this is addressed here as well. So Due to all of this, our standard is well received by retail and food service organizations. The logos you can see here, probably you recognize some of them, are all members of our community, basically. And all of them request Global G.A.P certification from their producers. For them, the situation is that if they request third-party certification, no matter if it is Global G.A.P or another standard, for the retail and food service industry, this assures them that the producers comply with certain requirements and that they also pay attention to certain topics. And through the standard, I mean, they have a very good assurance that if the producers receive the certificate issued by a certification body, that they comply with certain topics which are of relevance for the retailers. And it helps to reduce the risk of food safety issues or other issues that might come up or might be complained by the consumers. And therefore, I would like to share a quote with you from the senior vice president from Edeka. Edeka is also a German retailer. The Global G.A.P standard is the backbone to secure the best quality and agricultural practices through our huge supplier network. And because third-party certification is of such high relevance for the retailers, there are also a lot of producers following that standard. And you can see here also some of our community members. And what you have to imagine is that due to the fact that in the European markets, many retailers require third-party certification, this is somehow the entry ticket to that market. So me as a person living in Germany, going to German retail shops, I can say that I don't think I have ever seen any produce on the shelf that has not been third-party certified. And Global G.A.P is one preferred standard, and you can see many Global G.A.P certified produce in the shelves. And therefore, the producers, I would also like to share a quote from farming manager Lisa Lee from Driscoll's. She says, the adoption of the Global G.A.P standard has enabled Driscoll's to develop a more comprehensive guideline for production management. The certification has also facilitated communication and relationships with major domestic retailers. Apart from that, we also have several associate members that support our activities, that can be input providers, that can be certification bodies, learning institutions and such. So there is a huge diversity of community members in our organization. The main part of producers that is under Global G.A.P certification is still in Europe, because that's where we started some time ago. But you can also see from these statistics that also there is relevance for Global G.A.P certification in Latin America, Africa, Asia, and Oceania, and also a growing market in North America. And this is because the European and also North American market, they require third-party certification, also Global G.A.P, and therefore the producers follow these standards. So at the bottom line, why choose Global G.A.P certification? I don't want to go through all these single points, but what I would like to highlight is that through a third-party certification like Global G.A.P, you can gain access to local and global markets, suppliers and retailers. And it's very important for me also to highlight that we are not only talking about export market, because, as I mentioned my example from China, also international and local retailers, they also request third-party certification, because also in their in the countries where they are present, there are, of course, consumers who have certain requirements on the quality and also on the food safety of the goods and about the production conditions. And therefore, this is not only a topic for export market. Also, due to the collaboration that we have with other schemes, GlobalG.A.P can also, the GlobalG.A.P certification, you can also save costs by reducing the number of on-farm audits, because there are possibilities for combined audits with other standards. And yeah, so that we have a huge network, and what we also have are so-called national technical working groups in 53 countries in the meantime. And these national working groups, they pay attention to the interpretation, or basically it's a translation of the GlobalG.A.P standard to the country needs and to the country situation, because yeah, that might be different, or ways of interpretation is maybe sometimes uncertain, and therefore these national technical working groups can help to get the right understanding and to get a better feeling on how to implement the standard in the specific country. So as we are a global working company, the standard or normative documents are not only available in English, but in multiple languages. And this is all free of charge, accessible on our website. And what is also important to know is that you can demonstrate compliance with the United Nations Global Compact Food and Agriculture Business Principles if you comply with the standard. And yeah, this is a standard which is designed for the supply chain and by the supply chain, basically. So retailers, manufacturers, and producers give their input to shape the standard. So far, so good. I'm a producer. I now understood that it can open new markets if I'm willing to go that road for third-party certification or for GlobalG.A.P certification. But the big challenge is, of course, how do I manage that? Because what happens if you download our documents from the document center, you will see that there are more than 200 criteria that you have to fulfill to get your certificate. And that, of course, depending on the level of the farm and also depending on the experience with certification, this can be quite a challenging task for the producers. But we as GlobalG.A.P, we don't leave them alone. So we do not only write the standard and publish them and our work finishes. No, we really try to support the supply chain, and that's why we also have GlobalG.A.P capacity building activities. And I'm the team leader of the capacity building department. And as you can see from this map, we are globally working. The way we are contributing is usually that we work together with development aid partners. We are also a long-term partner of GIZ and also from other organizations. And we support, as a service provider, their projects in specific countries or regions. How does that look like? In general, of course, the core of our capacity building is training. We give trainings in our integrated farm assurance standard, which is the basis for everything. We also give training in quality management systems, which is of relevance if we are talking about producer groups. We also give training in primary farm assurance. This is, so to say, an entry-level standard to the IFA standard. So this is covering basic points that producers can fulfill. There are several levels. So that's an easy way, or that helps and simplifies the process for producers to get familiar with the system itself. How does certification work? How do I have to implement a standard? And they only have to focus on a few control points, and then they can increase the level and step by step go towards GlobalG.A.P certification. And this is also a solution that is appreciated by different countries, because they say for our local market, primary farm assurance solution is sufficient. And but this helps to cover at least certain basic points. And apart from that, we offer different kind of mentorships activities and such. But it's not only about training. What is also important for often for our partners is that we, for example, raise awareness about the activities they are doing in in their projects. So we can organize, for example, conferences. It can be a roundtable discussion where we also activate our Global G.A.P community network and get the right people at the table to help facilitate the project success or also the infrastructure. And what is also very important to understand is, yes, a retailer or a market can request Global G.A.P certification, and of course people can be trained and the farms can get a certification. But of course there's much more to consider, because maybe the documents need to be translated, or we need the support of a national technical working group that might even still need to be set up, or the support from certification bodies. So there's a lot to consider, and we can help to facilitate that framework. What I would like to highlight here is our registered trainer program, because this is also one core component of our capacity building activities. So the registered trainer program is a program where people or consultants basically and trainers, they get trained directly by Global G.A.P, and through an exam they can qualify for the program. And if they become part of the program, they can receive specific support and benefits. For example, we offer frequent webinars on a monthly basis where we keep the registered trainers up to date on the latest developments, give them technical input. They also can have direct contact to Global G.A.P experts if they are having any questions or facing challenges. And there is much more that we provide. We provide the training material in different languages. They can also translate it on their own and stuff like this. And these registered trainers also play a key role in the certification, because they are the ones who actually can support the producers first to understand the standard, to implement the standard, and also to help them to prepare for certification. And this is something where we see a value in building up these local resources and the local expertise, because we also, as a global organization, we cannot support any individual organization or person, but it is important that we build up the capacities and the knowledge and the experts so that they can support locally with their local expertise, knowing the local challenges of the people. So coming now to the collaboration specifically with GIZ. So we have a long year collaboration with GIZ, and we have supported GIZ projects in different countries such as Ghana, India, Indonesia, Kenya, Myanmar, North Macedonia, Thailand, Uzbekistan. And in Uzbekistan, that is a project we just which is a long-term project running since 2022, and we are about to close that project early next year. And this is about supporting the creation of an enabling environment, allowing the sustainable growth of agricultural certification with Uzbekistan. And with that project example, I would just like to give you an idea about how a collaboration with Global G.A.P could look like. So as you can see here, it's important that we are not only talking about training, it's also about creating a framework to facilitate certification. And therefore, in this case, we have also collaborated with the Ministry of Agriculture. We have collaborated with universities. There's also a main driver of this project was Kozinka, which is a local retailer that was very keen on getting their producers certified, and also other partners. So the outcome of that project was that there were 27 participants that took the training for integrated farm assurance, another 23 that took the training in quality management systems. And at the bottom line, there were 12 participants selected that qualified for the registered trainer program, and that are also part of further mentoring activities. Because it's important, first of all, in the training, we transfer the theoretical knowledge, but of course, we also give guidance then to these participants and these registered trainers, how they can implement that knowledge into practice. Especially in these projects, that's a nice way, because we can support them with specific farms and the specific situation. The Global G.A.P expert goes on site, supports them And then basically the idea is always use the time of the project to generate the knowledge and experience and confidence in the local experts so that they are ready to go also when the project ends, that these activities will continue and that they will maintain the system and that they will continue supporting the producers to maintain certification. Yeah, so you can see there are different activities, also farm visits included and so on. We have translated also documents and such things. And before I hand over back to Stefan and we start the Q&A session, I would also just let you know from our experience with partners in general and also with GIZ, I would just like to invite you and encourage you, if you have a project and Global G.A.P certification plays a role there, please, you are more than welcome, even if it is just a quick idea that you have, feel free to reach out to us as an organization. We are more than happy to exchange thoughts, to give some ideas, to make proposals on how activities could look like, to make sure that a framework is created that certification can be successful, because there are many factors that have to be considered. It can also be, we have to make sure that laboratories are there to fulfill the testing that is required, or that we make sure that, that it needs to be made sure that only registered pesticides are also available and stuff like this. So there are really a lot of components to consider, and that differs from country to country. And we are more than willing to help to shape that. Also, if you're still maybe in the phase of writing your proposal, because sometimes we experience that projects start, the goal is Global G.A.P certification, and we only get to know about these projects maybe 1 or 2 years when they are still running and when the partners start experiencing challenges. So yeah, just as an invite to approach us whenever you feel you could need our guidance or support. And that's it from my side. Stefan, handing over to you.
Thank you very much, Britta. Thank you for this very excellent presentation, giving you an insight, but at the same time, an overview what Global G.A.P is doing, and also closing with a very practical example from GIZ work in Uzbekistan. Thank you very much for this, Britta. And now we have more than 30 minutes time. There are already questions in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, and I think I just want to bring up those questions in the chat step by step, but nevertheless, you are all welcome to raise your hand, and then please also open your microphone and open your camera, please. We want to see you, who we are talking to, and then you can also ask Britta directly what comes to your mind. Let us start, Britta, with a question from David, a GIZ colleague from Ethiopia. He's asking why only focusing on plants and aquaculture, excluding livestock, for instance. Britta.
Yeah, so that was basically, we had livestock as a scope for a very long time, but we were struggling with that somehow, and then it was finally a strategic decision not to operate livestock as a scope anymore.
I hope, David, this answer is okay for you. Then,
but if you are still interested in livestock, so it's not that we just stopped it, but we handed it over to another organization. So if you are interested, we can also let you know who the organization is that is now operating that scope, and then you can also contact them if you need guidance on livestock specifically.
Okay, thanks, Britta. So, David, you get this presentation, not only you, but all of you. You get also all the contact details from Britta, and then you can contact her also bilaterally. There's one question in French from Monsieur Kofi Silvestre. J'espère Global G.A.P est représenté en Afrique de l'Ouest. Britta, do you understand this question in
Unfortunately,
French?
I don't speak any French at
Okay,
all. I'm
no
sorry.
problem. But it's a pretty simple question. I hope Global G.A.P is represented also in West Africa. Do you have anybody working for you there?
Yeah, so we have 2 colleagues that are based in Kenya, but actually we're very much working on a French-speaking trainer. I hope that I will have good news for you very soon. This is work in progress, but we are represented in Africa. We also have colleagues in South Africa, and French-speaking Africa is definitely of relevance for us as well, West Africa as well. And yeah, so this is also in terms of French-speaking, it's work in progress.
So I would suggest that Monsieur Kofi-Silvestre will write an email to you, Britta, and then as soon as you have French-speaking colleague, you might send him a response. Yeah,
of course, happy to do so.
Thanks. Then there's next question from Mr. Tapé from Côte d'Ivoire. He is asking, how much does certification cost for a producer applying for certification?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So what I can answer to you is we have a Global G.A.P fee table. I can share that with you as well. So there it is very transparent what a producer has to pay as a license fee to our organization. But this is, I would say, the minor cost for a producer. What makes out the main cost is, on the one hand, the price they have to pay for the certification body to do the audit. And this is an open market. Global G.A.P is not involved in the price structure of certification bodies. So they are free what they charge. And that differs really from country to country, from region to region. So basically their producers have to collect offers from certification bodies and choose what's the right one for them. And of course, what you have to consider is also that depending on the level of the farm, sometimes investments need to be made because there are certain requirements you have to fulfill. For example, in terms of how pesticide storage should look like. You need restrooms for the employees in a certain distance to the field. You need to have hand washing facilities and other stuff. So that means that maybe some construction is needed on the farm. And also there, the costs very much depend on where you are and what solution you prefer, because it does not need to be a very expensive solution, but it needs to fulfill the requirements that can sometimes be very, very simple and smart solutions. Our agricultural experts have seen very nice things in the fields, but that also really differs first from the level of the producer and also on the environment and conditions and country. So you cannot say like a certification for a producer costs X amount. This is impossible to say, unfortunately.
Okay, thanks, Britta. I think this is well understood. Yeah. All right, let me come to the next question. It's from our colleague Veronica. Welcome, Veronica. Her question is, who can access to capacity building? Do they have to be clients / farmers to be certified?
So it can be any organization that is interested in facilitating Global G.A.P certification, basically. So there's a large variety of clients that we have within our academy. First of all, it's divided into 2 parts because we also have a certification body academy, because the certification bodies also need to receive certain direct training from Global G.A.P to qualify, amongst other requirements. So they need to be served, but then we have the so-called public academy, and there we have public courses. They are online. Anyone can register as an individual person or as an employee of a company. to attend these courses. But of course, we also, if there is a company, for example, or an organization, it can be a ministry of agriculture, it can be a input providing company, a producer company, exporting company, whoever who is interested in learning more about the Global G.A.P standard. So they can also book, for example, a private training for their staff, and that can either be online or on site. And we have different training offers. So it's not only about the IFA standard, integrated farm assurance standard fruit and vegetables, but for example, also for aquaculture or for the different other standard solutions that we offer, the so-called add-ons that go on top of IFA certification and such, you can also get trained on them. So it's quite open. And apart from that, we also have the partnership stream, which is then specifically customized to organizations like GIZ, where we provide our services.
Thank you very much, Britta, for this very long, extended response. I think, Veronica, or I hope it was okay for you like this. All right, then Mr. Tapé, he's asking again another question. Is there any interconnection between Global G.A.P standards and other known standards as RA, etc.? I do not know RA, but Britta, you will know it.
Yeah, frank and honest, I also don't know RA.
What is
or
it?
Rainforest Alliance, probably, I guess.
Could be.
That
Yeah.
could be, yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah, Rainforest Alliance, thank you, yeah. Okay, so, yeah, of course, in general, we are open for collaboration, and we are aware of the challenges that the producers have, because usually they are not only requested to fulfill one standard, but maybe they have to fulfill multiple standards. And when it comes to auditing, of course, it can get expensive. So we are seeking collaboration with other standards, yes, and that differs from standard to standard. But for example, we also have a collaboration with Site Platform, where they have their own standard, and this is also so they also use our IT system to reflect their status of verification of producers. So this can be seen via our system as well, for example. And they have their own standard, but we have created a so-called add-on. So some control points on top of our standard. And if producers fulfill that, they can automatically get the certificate for Site Platform as well. Just to give you an example of collaboration. So it really differs. There are many standards in this world. So there is a different level of collaboration, but in general, we also try to make the lives of the producers as easy as possible.
Thank you, Britta. Thank you. All right. There's one more question, another question from our GIZ colleague, Mr. Ulutu from Nigeria. And he's asking, are there specific focus crops that you major on?
Basically, we have a long list of products that can be certified. And we, as Global G.A.P, we do not have a focus on specific crops in that sense. So as long as the product that shall be certified is on our list, it can be certified, and we are open to support.
Thank you. And one more question. Jill is asking, and this question seems to be interesting only for other people. How to be part of this registered trainers?
So entering the registered trainer program is not that complicated. So you take a training with Global G.A.P, Integrated Farm Assurance version 6 plants training. I'm happy to share the link to the academy later on. And then you take the training and you have to take an exam. And if you hit a certain examination score, you are eligible to enter the program. There is a certain program fee that you have to pay annually, and it's 490 euros a year. But there are also special offers for members. And with that, you can enter the program and get all the benefits of that program.
Okay, thanks. So we would be happy if you maybe later on share the link also in our chat here. Yeah,
Sure, I will do
think
that.
people would appreciate. All right, there's another question from Mr. Ali from Ethiopia. He's asking, do you have any partnership in Ethiopia?
I would need to check. So Ethiopia as such, I think we recently did not have any projects there, but I will check that. I will check the project history and let you know if there has already been activities taking place. I will get back to you.
Okay, thank you. Maybe it is always easier if participants who are interested in specific questions just write a short email to Britta and then she can respond that
Sure.
Directly. This I would really recommend to our participants, to you. Britta, you might also put your email address in the chat later on, that people can maybe directly after this expert call write in specific email to you.
Yes, I will do that.
Mr. Tapé is asking how to establish collaboration for training in other countries that doesn't yet collaborate with you.
You just simply reach out to my team and we can talk about it. Very simple answer.
All right, thanks. Okay, and there's another new question from our colleague, Monsieur Rama from from Albania, I think. Yeah, how frequently are the global G.A.P standards revised? That's the first question. Maybe Britta, you might answer to this.
Yeah, sure. So the frequency is usually roughly every 4 years.
Every 4 years.
Yeah,
okay.
Every 4 years, more or less. Yeah.
Okay, thanks
so
for
there
this.
are, no, let's state it like this. Then we have the whole overhaul, like version changes from version 5 to version 6. But of course, if in the meantime we detect that, for example, there is a control point that is not interpreted in the way that we were intending it to be interpreted, then it can be that we make small changes or that we have version updates in the meantime, because there might be developments or uncertainties, feedback from the stakeholders that we need to revise it. And then there might be a version 6.1 or something. But the big overhaul is usually every 4 years. Yeah.
Okay. And there was a second question from Mr. Rama. Doesn't it affect efficiency for farmers and for national technical working groups to have to translate the documents frequently?
Yes, of course, but that's why we also have that frequency in years and not that we have a big update every year. And usually the changes that we maybe have in the meantime, or updates that are not so significant that you need to redo the whole translation again, but it's only maybe a few control points that you then have to update. Of course, that's efforts. We have a translation team at our company that also takes care of translation. And on the other hand, we also asked for support from national technical working groups for translation, because that sometimes speeds up the process.
Okay. And the third part of the question is, can you please also point out the challenges of implementing option 2?
Yeah, what is really important is that you have a quality management system in place, right? This is the crucial thing, because option 2 is about group certification. So the group needs to implement a quality management system, and they need an internal auditor that also is appointed to maintain that system. And that is the main and crucial part when it comes to group certification.
Thanks. Then Mr. Muhammad Hussein Ali, he's asking to share with us the organization working on livestock. Please, Mr. Ali, kindly write a short email to Britta, and then she will respond today or tomorrow latest. Then one more question from our colleague, Mr. Rama. Is there any digital tool /app /platform that farmers or companies can use for documentation?
So there are, for sure, there are these kind of solutions. I would need to connect with my colleagues if there are any specific tools that, that especially go for Global G.A.P certification. I'm not sure about this. And before I'm guessing, I would rather talk to my colleagues and get back to you on this. But in general, of course, there are many apps and tools, for example, also for measuring different things, but like really going tick boxing through the Global G.A.P standard, I'm not sure if this is existing. I have to check.
Okay, thanks. And the last question for the moment in this chat is, how does one or firm get to be a trainer in this certification exercise? I think you have already answered this question, or is it a different question?
No, it's basically the registered trainer program that is provided directly from Global G.A.P, right? And which is especially important. It can be interesting for individuals that want to consult producers, but it can also be companies that register and then have several trainers in the program. That is also possible.
Then is Nigeria a participant in this exercise? Because I didn't hear that you, Britta, mentioned Nigeria.
Yes, we also we have a lot of activities also in Nigeria. That is true. So there were projects in the past also. I would need to have a closer look, but there are, we from time to time, we also work with stakeholders from Nigeria.
Right. Okay. So because Britta is so busy with answering all the questions, I have just written now Britta's email address in the chat. Yeah. And then the link to the training academy you will share with us later.
Yes.
Excellent, ladies and gentlemen. Those were all the questions in the chat, but nevertheless, we still have 15 minutes to go if we want to. So if you have anything else what you want to ask, or maybe just you want to ask it yourselves, just raise your hand with this MS Teams tool, hand raise, and then just open your microphone and your camera, please. Because I was really impressed by the variety and all the different questions. I appreciate it, I think, but still use the time if you want to. We still have some time left. Okay, this is the Global G.A.P Academy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, yeah. Any other questions can be reached out to the info Global G.A.P. Of course, Lou, thanks for that. And don't forget, you will receive the full presentation and also the recording of this expert talk in a couple of days. We have all your emails, of course. All right, some people
Stefan, what I can do also is to send you an updated presentation with my personal email address in it. I just wanted, due to the fact that it is recorded, I just wanted to be my personal email address in the web, visible for anybody. But I'm happy to update the presentation with my personal one, and then you can share that one with the participants so they can contact me directly.
Yes.
That helps.
Perfect. Sounds good. Sounds
okay.
Great. All right. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Let me wait for one more minute, and if this is not the case, then we can of course also close the expert talk a couple of minutes earlier. No, I think, Britta, it seems that you have answered to all the questions in an excellent way. So
thank you.
No questions left.
Okay.
All right, then first of all, Britta, let me thank you. Thanks very much that you took time to be part of this expert talk, and I really hope that many colleagues and also trainers outside all over the world can benefit from your presentation, and maybe you can create somehow a new collaboration. And I would also like to use this opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, after the expert talk is before the expert talk. So our next expert talk is on Thursday, 19th of September. I think all of you have already received an invitation so far. It is about STDF, the Standard and Trade Development Facility, which is linked to the WTO in Geneva. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I wish you a nice afternoon, and I'm going to stop the recording now. Thanks, and we stay in touch. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thanks to everybody for listening.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you and goodbye.